While the investigation is still far from over, the report found that at least 500 indigenous children died in government-supported schools, and that number is expected to grow. The report does not address, however, how the children died or who exactly is responsible, but it is the first time the U.S. government has made an attempt to research and acknowledge the trauma inflicted on Native American children for decades. Joining me now is Crystal Echo-Hawk. She's the founder and executive director of Illuminative. Crystal, thank you so much for being here. It's really challenging getting through some of the atrocities we read about in this report. Like we said, it's the first time the government has attempted to comprehensively research this. Why now, and how instrumental was Secretary Deb Haaland in bringing these atrocities to light, given that she's the first Native American woman to hold the position?
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. The reason it's happening now is because of Secretary Haaland. It's because of the impact I think that the Native vote had in 2020 and President Biden, nominating her for this important role. And she had a vision and deeply understood through her own personal history the impact of the boarding schools on Native American people. And this is going to be probably one of her most important legacies as Secretary of Interior.
Some of the things that I'm reading, I mean, obviously the report does not capture everything, but the children were subjected to physical abuse, sexual abuse. They were forced to try to wash the brown off them. Many died trying to escape. Based on your knowledge, being a member of the community and the tradition of sharing legacy and passing information down, who do you think was responsible for this? Where did this system even come from?
The system came from, the United States government. I mean, this was an official government policy, and we need to make no bones about this. This came from the heart of the United States government, and it was a policy to assimilate these children, but the policy was to break apart tribes and families and to rip families in half, separate children as a way to dispossess Native Americans from their land. So this was an act of genocide. This is cultural genocide, and it was very systematic. I mean, I think, I thought I had known quite a bit about what happened in the boarding schools, but reading this report, it was so hard to see it, but it's so important, the truth in black and white about how systematic and thinking about the way that they were going to rip apart these families, the way that they mixed up children from different tribes so that they had no way to speak their own language, so that they could literally annihilate these native languages and these cultural life ways. And it's just, it's really that. But I think the other frightening thing that I think everybody knew, but it's there in black and white, that there was no separation between church and state. The United States literally carved up reservations and gave them to different denominations of Christian churches. They also paid these churches to operate these schools and were paid by a per capita basis for the number of children that they had. So this is a lot, but this is the United States government, and this is a lot of the churches in this country.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge that. This is especially when you see all these CRT debates happening across the country. CRT isn't taught anywhere, but this is history that people should certainly learn. And I wonder, the people who call themselves pro-life, this is certainly something that should outrage them. Children as young as 4 years old were separated from their family. This dates back generations. So I remember seeing when children in Central America were separated and people said, this isn't America, this isn't who we are. This is as American as apple pie. What does restitution even look like at this point?
I mean, we have to continue. One, we have to urge Congress. Congress must pass the Truth and Healing Commission Policies Act. There was a hearing just this last week, and we need to ensure that there's a federal commission, that is really resourced and has all the powers to really get at the bottom of the truth and to hold the United States government and all the different agencies that were complicit in part of this, and as well as the churches and any others that were complicit in what happened to Native Americans. That is absolutely critical. And I think, the Secretary Haaland has really made it known. I think she has an intention to travel throughout this country over the next year to really be in conversation with tribal leaders about what does repair look like? What does justice look like?
Yeah.
What does healing look like? But we need a revitalization and investment in Native American cultural life lifeways and languages. The trauma that is being unleashed right now, we're all reliving it because there's not a Native American that hasn't been touched by what happened in those boarding schools. And so it's going to mean a lot of investment, I think, in looking at mental health resources and a variety of different things. Because as you said at the beginning, Tiffany, this is only the beginning. And the report says that they expect the numbers of children that are buried to be potentially up into the hundreds of thousands. We just don't know yet.
Wow.
So there needs to be an investment across the board in these resources to really ensure that this investigation is done thoroughly.